I Don't Know Yet is not affiliated with any specific 12-step fellowship. The content put forth are the thoughts, opinions, and experiences of the host and guests. It is meant to be suggestive only and is in no way a reflection on how to work the steps in any fellowship or how to work any other recovery program. Okay, we are back. Welcome, everybody, to I Don't Know Yet. I'm actually really, really excited for this episode. Famously, in the past, I usually bring on people that have topics that I have something to add to. And I don't know how much I do have to add to this, but when Krystal brought me this idea, it was just too good to pass up. So welcome to the show, Krystal.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you here. Mm-hmm. You have been just one of the biggest lights that I've seen since I've come into the rooms, and I'm just really grateful to be able to have you come share some of your experience, strength, and hope with us. I know that in preparation for the episode, we talked about quite a few things. Yeah. So just so that you are aware, I know we previously kind of talked about it, but I'm kind of going to let you kind of run the show and teach us what it is, you know, some of your lived experience and kind of what you're going through and how you can help other people. So I thought a good kind of starting point would be to kind of tell us where you came from, what happened, where you're at now, just a little bit of your backstory.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited too. So my name is Krystal and I am in recovery, which is amazing. I'm from a small town in Ontario and I had like the nuclear family where it was my mom, my dad, I have my brother and my sister my brother is my twin. And growing up, it was pretty decent, so I thought, but I didn't realize that I was experiencing some trauma due to the way that my parents had their emotional dysregulation, right? And I didn't know that what I was seeking in my lifetime was just love and validation. And so I oftentimes, as soon as I started getting attention in my teenage years from boys, from men, whatever, that started to become an addiction for me. So my addiction started when I was I started drinking when I was about 15 years old. And by 17, I was doing ecstasy, mushrooms, acid, smoking weed, drinking alcohol. And by 18, I tried my first line of cocaine. And from there, it was all downhill. By 19, I had gotten my niece broke my nose. And I say that she saved my life in a way because when she broke my nose, I found out that I had an inch hole inside of my nose. And I had previously had a seizure due to I guess it was an overdose, but I didn't know what happened. And it was a crazy situation that night. But had my niece not have done that, I might not have lived to be where I'm at today. So my addiction didn't stop. I experimented with drugs and alcohol while I used drugs and alcohol all the way up until my 30s, till I got pregnant with my daughter. And from where I was hopeless, in so much pain inside within that I didn't realize that what I was doing was escaping my reality almost every day before I got pregnant with my daughter. And it was escaping with men, escaping with drugs, escaping with alcohol, escaping with different jobs, different people, different places.
Anything and everything.
Yeah. I did the geographical cure when I was about 27 years old and I came to Alberta. So that was my first taste of coming to Calgary. I loved it, but I didn't stay here. So I ended up going to Fort Mac with my girlfriends. And that's where my addiction just kind of it spiraled all over again. Going out there, there was an abundance of cocaine.
It's everywhere.
It was everywhere. And that's what it was like when I went out there. It was just a party. I started working for Hell's Angels. I always felt like I wanted to be seen by all these people. So I was doing things that went against my morals and my values. And at the time, it was like, just see me. I don't give a shit what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Literally, I will do whatever it takes to be seen by somebody and to have that validation.
That's so fascinating to me that while the stories are about to drift probably in very different directions.
Yep.
You literally just told my story. It always amazes me that we come from such different places, but it always ends up being the same. Like, I'll do anything. Just tell me that you approve of me, you appreciate me, you like me. I'll do anything.
Yeah.
Lines that I never thought I would cross. I relate to everything you've just said.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was, it was interesting for my 20s, and I like to think back and think some of it was a lot of fun, but then a lot of it was not, and I was very much in denial in those days, waking up hungover, waking up feeling like, oh my God, what happened last night, or knowing what happened and pretended like, okay, that didn't happen. I'm just going to forget that happened.
Yeah.
Oh, there was so many nights of that, or waking up like the next day and just not even knowing what happened, and somebody reminding me, and I remember I'd be like, well, I don't remember, so it didn't happen. How insane is that thinking? Yeah.
I almost lost a job once from that. I went to a conference and I apparently drank a lot. I remember having fun.
Yeah.
But I definitely remember waking up the next day being like, I don't remember most of last night.
Right.
And after the conference, my boss pulled me in the office and he's like, how do you think it went? And I'm like, I thought it was great. And he's like, cool. Did you know that you almost fought someone? Did you know that you blacked out? Did you know that you completely embarrassed the entire company? And I'm like, nope, don't remember that at all. Yeah.
Whoops.
Whoopsies.
Yeah. I know.
All too familiar for
people and
like us.
I worked in bars for most of my life.
Me too.
Like my 20s anyways.
Yeah.
And it was a shit show. My boss used to be like, welcome to the Krystal show.
That's funny.
There's no joke.
I remember when I shifted off of drinking for like my go-to, and then it moved over to Coke and then over to meth. When I first started, the first few months I did meth, I remember my boss would come up to me. I was working in a restaurant bar as well. And she was just like, Jen, you're at a hard 99. I need you to bring it down to a 75. And I'm like, 84 is as low as I can go. And I would run off. Like, I don't know how people didn't know. It was very obvious that I was on speed.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
Oh, the things we used to do.
We used to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
so progressively getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
Waking up, feeling like shit.
Yeah.
Then you find out you're pregnant. What happened next?
Yeah. So the night before I was pregnant, I was partying with my friends. We at the time we lived in Wasaga Beach, and if anybody knows Ontario and Wasaga Beach, it's a party little.
I've been there.
Beach. Yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, I woke up that day and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't feel good, but I don't think that like this is a hangover, right? Sure enough, I did a test and I was pregnant. I was like, oh my God. This is my way out. Like, this is my way to stop drinking and partying, right? So I thought. And the man that I met, we met in the year that I went back to Ontario. I moved in with a friend of mine, and he and I met in my backyard, and we started hitting it off, talking about his truck and then drinking, and that I like doing coke, and that's where our commonality became our connection. And so we quickly started dating. Like, it was so fast, and within 9 months I'm pregnant. We already moved in together with his mom, which was a complete shit show in itself. But I was thinking like I could be the helper. So a part of me is a helper. Like, I really want to see the best in people, and I want to be there to help them be successful themselves.
You want to white knight everybody. Let me come save you.
Basically, that's who I am.
Me too.
And I'm really trying to get out of that these days, right? I'm trying to save myself now.
Totally.
I am saving myself. I should reframe that.
Yeah.
So yeah, at 9 months is when I found out that I was pregnant, and I ended up leaving his mom's place. We got our own place in Barrie, and my ex didn't stop drinking. He's my ex now. He didn't stop drinking. And in that time, I ended up relapsing in my pregnancy. And I felt like shit. I felt like garbage. And it wasn't until I actually went and sought some help after he and I separated that I started to understand addiction a little bit better. And I had a little less self-hatred towards myself, because my counselor was like, well, just because you were pregnant doesn't mean your addiction stopped. And I was like, mind blown. I'm like, oh my gosh, That's so true, because I didn't do any work on myself. I didn't try and stop drinking and drugging. I just got pregnant.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, now what? Now my whole life changes, but his doesn't. So I was waking up beside him and he was wasted trying to pee beside the bed, or like, it was insanity living with somebody who was an alcoholic. And here I am pregnant, carrying our child, trying to maintain a pregnancy and sanity. And it was really a big challenge for me.
And I think that, like, you know, we're so lucky to be people that kind of, you know, go along with the 12-step fellowships, because when you're suffering and you don't have any education or knowledge, we don't understand what the problem is.
Yeah.
Right? We know that we can't stop, but we don't understand why, right? Being able to actually be, you know, seeing the problem and then given a solution. It's if you've never explored to learn these things, you don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
No.
Right? People that aren't addicts, that love you, that look at you and they're just like, I love you. Why don't you just stop? Why don't you just do well?
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when I pick it up, I can't put it down and I can't stop picking it up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so I didn't have a lot of empathy or compassion for him, you know, and a part of me wishes that I knew what I know now, because maybe things would have been different. Who knows, right? But the things that happened are the way that they were supposed to happen. And that's what I have acceptance for today. You know, after my daughter was born, I ended up feeling like not hopeless, but resentful of him. Now I know what it was. Like, after working through this program, like, I know it was a resentment, and it was like, why do I have to live my life with like this? And you can still maintain your life the way that you were living it. And I just felt like I wanted to run away. And she was 4 months old. We went out that night and I ended up relapsing with Coke again. And I was so mad at myself. But do you think that stopped? No, because that clicked that allergy all over again. And here I was off again. And so I was using it on the weekends. We were binging. My parents would take my daughter and we would binge it. And then it just came after about 3 months of that I had one night where I was sitting in front of her and I was feeling it. I was like, I feel like I'm going to die right now. I don't want to live my life like this anymore. And so I woke up the next day and that was it for me. But again, I was living with an addict. So he didn't stop, right? And I had to make the choice of either staying or going. And I ended up leaving. I ended up going back again, though, because he said that he was going to get help. And so part of my story is having this is a big part of my story, is my addiction with men. But the biggest part was with him. And I thought I could save him, but it really took a lot for me to actually see that I couldn't save him and I had to save me and my babies. And I was 16 weeks pregnant when I did finally leave him for good. And that was the hardest decision of my life. When I did, I ended up getting help from the Women and Children's Shelter. I went to the outreach program, so I didn't stay in the shelter at that point in time. They got me into housing. They helped me. I did it myself. I had to do that hard work, but I got into housing. I got us an apartment, and there were so many like blessings that came out of leaving that toxic relationship. But in that time, it was so hard for me. Yeah, because I was suffering with having a baby growing in my belly. Plus, I had a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
And now what the fuck am I going to do?
Yeah.
And at this time, I didn't have a program. I was running it on my own self-will of staying sober.
Right.
I had 2 counselors. I had an addiction counselor for dealing with somebody who was an addict, and then one that was helping me see my worth within the Women and Children's Shelter.
Right.
So I was really blessed to have those 2 resources at my beck and call during that rough time in my life. So for me, seeking support for myself was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. It was such a fear mindset that I was living in to ask for help. But once I got people's support telling me like, hey, you should try this out. I'm like, I don't think I need this resource, the women's shelter, this umbrellas program. I don't think I need these. But then when I did it, it was the best thing I could have ever done for myself.
Well, and I think for people like us, who naturally have the defects of the validation and the people pleasing to the max, those types of situations are that much harder for us. I've met, like, it all depends on who you are and what flaws and character traits you have.
Yep.
But the fear, at least for me, when it comes to that stuff is like, I can't fail. I can't have you see that I'm failing. I can't possibly have you be disappointed in me. How can I tell you that I need help?
Right.
Right. And it makes it so
goosebumps.
much harder.
Yeah.
And then you finally break and that's, I can't do anything else. You do it, then you get it. And you're like, oh God, why didn't I do this so long ago?
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah. Honestly, it was just such a beautiful but chaotic time in my life. My son came when it was November 11th, 2017. So he's my 11/11 baby. And I was going through the court process during that time. I was feeling
like custody.
Okay. Yeah. So I was going for full custody of the kids.
Because he was still actively in addiction.
And supervised access for him. Another really tough situation to go through because I never wanted to do that. I didn't want to be a single mom. I'll just put that out there for the record. Never wanted to be a single mom. And it's taken me a long time to have some acceptance surrounding that. Like a really long time. Mm-hmm. But I didn't want to live in a toxic relationship with 2 kids anymore. Like I knew that couldn't be part of our lives. So I had to do.
What a hard decision to make.
Yeah. I had to do it. And then take him to court. That was one of the hardest decisions too, because then there's so much more attached to it, like the money that the court wants, all that. I just wanted him to be a dad and get help, but I can't change somebody else, right? Yeah. I can only do for me, and that's all I got. And I can pray for him, but unfortunately,
you have to protect you and your kids.
I had to protect me and my kids.
Yeah.
I went through some postpartum depression after having my son. It was a whole newfound, like, holy shit, what am I going to do? Because 2 under 2 and navigating how to take care of 2 babies on your own.
Yeah.
Never done it before. It's all new.
For someone who's uneducated in anything child-related, I don't understand anything about babies or children, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, myself included, what is postpartum depression? What is that?
So it's after having a baby, your hormones are all changing, right? You're experiencing so many different things. You just grew a child in your belly for 9 months and then you released it, but now your hormones are messed up.
Okay.
And to get those back, it takes some time.
Okay.
But the depression, the feelings of like wanting to give up or just the sadness or I can't do these sort of things. It's like, think about depression, but it's just with your postpartum. So you're literally just...
Is it depression within or is it like negative feelings towards the baby at all? Or is it just...
Not for me.
Okay.
I think other people... Depends on their own experience. But for my postpartum depression, it was just sadness. It was feeling alone.
Hard to keep going.
It was, how am I going to keep going?
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah. And we got moved into our apartment, I think it was 17 days before Ocean was born. So think of that. I'm 9 months pregnant, moving into a new apartment with me and my daughter, who's 1.5, and then my unborn son. 3 flights of stairs up into an apartment.
Oh, geez.
It was fun. So then I met someone in there, and the top floor was like single mom. It was all single moms with kids. Insane that they put the moms with the children on the top floor, but okay. Anyways, I met some really amazing women on that floor in that time. And I became really good friends with one of the girls. Her name, not going to say her name. Anyways, she knocked on my door on New Year's and she was like, at this time I had 18 months sober. She's like, hey, do you want to hang out tonight? What are you doing? And I said, I'm probably just going to go to my parents. She's like, don't go to your parents, hang out with me and have some beers. I was like, well, I haven't drank in like 18 months. And she's like, have a couple. It won't be,
It's just a couple.
Just a couple.
People that don't have our problem don't understand. It's never just a couple for us.
But at the time, I didn't think I had a problem with alcohol.
Because you totally stopped for 18 months.
Yeah. And so I thought, okay, I'll have a couple with you. Mm-hmm. Well, that set off the allergy. It set off the obsession. I started drinking again, like weekly. I was drinking. I was still breastfeeding my son at the time, waking up and giving him feeds and waking up and throwing up in the middle of the night because I drank too much. It was just not a good scene. And I knew what I was doing wasn't right. But at the same time, my friends were doing it and I felt like, it's okay. But I knew it wasn't right. So I would hide the evidence. Like I would throw away the cans. I would hide the evidence. Yep. That's what I would say. I was like hiding the evidence in my own mind. The kids they were growing fast. We were having dance parties and we were living our lives. And I was it was 2.5 years that I was clean from cocaine. And it was the weekend before my birthday. At the time, my son was 18 months old. And in that time, I ended up getting full custody of the kids. I got everything in the court order. So I celebrated. But it quickly spiraled for me with the alcoholism. And by the time Ocean was 18 months, I had relapsed with cocaine. I went out for my birthday and I don't remember. And I did some. But my friend said to me the next day, Krystal, you did it. And I was like, what? Everything just dropped inside of me. I felt, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? But then knowing that I did it, this is how insane our brain is. The allergy was like, well, you don't remember it, so you may as well try and do it again.
If you're going to do it, you might as well remember it and enjoy it.
May as well try it again.
Yep.
So it just quickly took off again for me. And I ended up going back out for 9 months doing coke. It wasn't like I did it when I was young, where it was an everyday sort of thing, but it was enough that I was waking up feeling like crap, feeling really tired, feeling really resentful of myself, not liking who I was. Like I remember doing it the second time I did it and I looked in the mirror and I didn't even know who I was. I was like, who is this person? I don't know if you can relate to that, but 100%. I was so hurt within myself that I had relapsed, that I had done that again, but I couldn't stop. I could not stop myself from going back out and having a couple of drinks and then getting a couple of grams or whatever and hanging out with those people that, were supportive of me doing that. They would watch the kids while I would be sleeping so that I could catch up on sleep and then we'd do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was just like, what am I doing? I left my ex for this reason. And here I am doing the same thing. So that I was afraid. I was so afraid to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back to school in 2019 for social service work. And in that schooling, it's very self-reflective. And I went back to school because I wasn't able to go back to my old job because they wanted me to work nights. And as a single parent, you can't work nights. There's no way, unless you have somebody in your family helping you or a maid or something.
Right.
It's very, very hard on me to do that.
Right.
So schooling, I went back, and in that schooling is where it was like, I'm a hypocrite if I'm going to continue to live my life like this, partying, but then also being a support to people who are maybe in recovery. At the time, I didn't know where my journey was going to take me. Maybe children's aid or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. Hypocrite. That's all I kept thinking. And I met a man in 2020, and that was January 10th, 2020. I met the guy. And
you met this guy a day before my sober journey started.
Yeah. So, I met him just before, but January 10th was the last time that I did a line of cocaine, 2025. Or 2020, now it's 2025.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Sober date's January 11th, 2020.
No way.
That's crazy.
That's amazing. Yeah.
That's so funny.
So that's the last time I did coke. But it was a guy that I was like, okay, this is my way out. Not to say that I was really like attracted to him and I liked him, but at the same time, I felt like this is my way out because he didn't use and he was on the same kind of path that I am, but I knew what I was doing wasn't okay within myself, right? And fast forward into that year, I still drank once in a while, but I could see that when I would drink, I couldn't stop drinking, but I didn't want to acknowledge it. And in 2020, December 2020 is when I got introduced to the rooms. And at first I'm like, I don't think I need it, but someone's like, I think that you should just come check it out. And I'm so grateful that someone suggested it. And I stepped out of my comfort zone and I went. And when I went to that first meeting, I was like hit with, holy cow, they are speaking my story right now. They are talking about me. This is me. This is how I am. I am powerless over the first drink. And it finally started to click. I started to...
Tingles listening to you talk right now.
Yeah. I started to understand addiction. I started to understand myself within addiction. And it was the most powerful experience of my life to get into that room and to hear other people sharing my experience. And then it took me a couple of times. It took me a couple of times to be able to get it. My sobriety date is February 14th, 2021.
Hell yes.
So that's all free from all mind-altering substances. So I don't do anything else, which is my personal choice, right? And I love it. I'm very blessed to be on this journey of sobriety. It's brought me to my knees time and time again. It hasn't been easy, especially raising 2 children on my own, and learning how to deal with your own emotions and really looking at yourself and all the crap that I did. And thank God my kids were so little by the time that I got sober. Like, I think my daughter, she's going to be 9 this year. So she was 4 and my son was just turning 3 so around that time or just turned 3 and she was soon to be 5. But yeah, thank goodness, because I don't know if they remember much, but I'm really grateful that it was only a short amount of time. And that I don't have to live my life like that anymore, especially with them. It's been a ride. I can say it's been a ride. My son suffers from ADHD, and 2022, maybe I'll go back to when we moved out here. We moved out here during COVID, and it was 2021. It was the summer that I graduated from the social work diploma. I moved out here with a man that I was dating, and in that summer, my ex and I had no communication. I had a restraining order. He ended up leaving Ontario.
And your ex as in the father of your children?
Yeah, the father of my children. Okay. He ended up leaving Ontario, and he came back the day after I put supervision on, canceled it completely. I was like, you're not coming back. You can't keep doing this to the kids, because he could never make his visits. You can't keep doing this to the kids. And I made that executive decision that no more.
We're done.
The day after he came back, and I saw him on the street, I was like, are you kidding me? Well, he started creeping me on my Facebook page. And at this time I started a support group for moms in recovery. And he would comment, and I knew it was him because of the way that he would talk. But one day I was outside after having a meeting, and there he was. And I just looked, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Now imagine seeing somebody that you've got a restraining order against, somebody that you took to court and took their kids away, somebody that you've canceled visitations to, and you see them in the flesh right beside you. I was panicked, fear, everything all through me. And I walked across the street to my car, and I couldn't move. I froze and I shook for 2 hours. I had to call the police. I had to ask them to get him to leave. He wouldn't leave. He's like, well, what restraining order? So it was just insanity the way that the things went down. So I was dating somebody at the time, and he shared for me. He's like, well, I'm moving to Alberta. Why don't you and the kids have a fresh start? And so we moved out here, and I didn't really know who that person was either. Relationship didn't work out, but I'm grateful that we got to come out here. And in November of 2022, my children's father passed away from his disease of addiction. He had a fentanyl overdose, and that has propelled me in so many different ways of my spiritual growth, more healing. I have to grieve him for a second time. And today I'm okay to surprisingly talk about it, but there was a period of time that I couldn't. I was just so in so much despair about his loss. And all I could think about was everything that, what we had went through, the person that he was before the addiction, the person that I fell in love with. As soon as he passed away, I was hit with all the goodness. And it's like all that. And so this is how crazy this program is, because once you have this knowledge of like acceptance and love and healing, you're able to break free from that resentment and that hurt and that pain. Because when he was alive, I was angry. I felt very resentful that I was single parenting on my own for so long that I couldn't see past that for a long time. But when he passed away, it was just like, I don't have to live in fear anymore. I don't have to feel like, whatever happened with our past, he can use against me. Those kind of thoughts came through my head too. And not to be selfish in that way, but it was just a newfound love for him and love for life, because I no longer had to live in fear.
It's so funny that you bring that up. I just think God works in such funny, mysterious ways. I had an experience with a sponsee that I have not had yet, and it was just last week. So it's not a surprise that everything's kind of lining up. Over the last few weeks, we've been trying to get together to work on her 4 and her 5, and she had quite a long list of resentments. And at the top of it was one of her ex-boyfriends.
Yeah. And
so we were trying to work on a time, and in that time of us trying to figure out our schedules, he overdosed and passed away.
Oh.
And so exact same situation, but she had reached out to me saying that above anything else, she was angry that he was gone. And so in doing some reflection and chatting with her, she's like, it's the weirdest feeling, because I'm angry now in a different way, but all of the stuff that's on my list, like, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. And so I just thought it was really, I'm like, do I dive in and just kind of steer it this way? And it ended up working out really well. And I said, like, I know that this is really hard, but I'd like you to try to do something. And she was like, okay. And I'm like, your list is quite long.
Yep.
Let's be honest. She's like, I know it is. And I said, okay, what I'd like for you to try to do is zip through your list and imagine how you would feel if each and every one of those people were gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then she was like, but if I did that, I wouldn't have any more resentment. And I'm like, that's the point. And then I was like, but see, like, you're like, that's kind of how we are sometimes. We want to hold on to it. We don't want to let it go. I'm like, you've already admitted that you can see your part in a lot of areas, but you don't want to ask God to help you let it go.
Yep.
Maybe try this.
Yep.
And so that has really opened up a whole bunch for her.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know. And it might not even be addiction related. Like, somebody could get hit by a bus.
Yep.
Ultimately, being able to understand that life is out of our hands, and we have no idea how much time we have with somebody, whether they're healthy or they're not.
Yep.
Right? And it's just not worth it to hold on to those things.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need a very large catalyst like that to be able to switch and see that.
Yeah. So as you say that, his mom and I, we didn't speak for 7 years. Would have been 7 years this June. And she stopped talking to me after I left him because I set boundaries, and they were healthy, right? But
they affected her in a negative way.
They affected her, and I was open to be able to have communication with her, but she shut that down. This year, a week before his birthday, she did the assisted dying. And before that, his sister and I have a good relationship now. And she mentioned it to me that, she was doing this. Maybe you want to think about doing an amends. And this person was on my amends list for so long. But I don't need to do an amends. I don't owe her anything. This is my thought process beforehand. She stopped talking to me. But, there were things that I did when I was in my active addiction to her directly. And I didn't apologize. I ended up writing her a letter. Whether she read it or not, I'm not sure. But I gave her pictures of the kids, and the kids made her a bracelet. And this was just a month before she passed. And in my letter, I was honest. I said I relapsed. That was one of my biggest fears, was that they would find out that I relapsed. And so, you know what? Before she passed away, I let her know. I relapsed. And my amends to her is that I'm going to continue on this path of sobriety and recovery and healing. And I'm going to speak nothing but love and light about both her and Vance, and continue to bring their lives, have their lives be still alive, so that they can celebrate their life for who the kids are, because without them, they wouldn't be here. And,
Right.
But that's where sobriety has brought me to now, is like, I can see myself and I can see my parts, and I can show up and share this, whether she read it or not. I still got to clear my side of the street. And for me, that is such huge growth, where I used to be in denial. No, it wasn't me. It was her, pointing fingers, blaming everybody and their brother, But for me today, I can actually have, what is the word I'm looking for? Accountability.
Yes.
There we go. I was going to say acceptance, awareness. No, it's accountability.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things that I take forward from recovery, is being accountable for my actions. And that's why I'm here sharing my story too, because I'm being accountable for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was a pretty, I like to think that I wasn't, I was a fun, outgoing person, but I did hurt people, and in that time, my amends to myself and to others is just to continue to share this message that we can recover, and that it takes a lot of courage to step outside of what you were before, and to being somebody that you are today, and to be truly seen,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I reached out to somebody. They posted something pretty scary online. And so I reached out to this person, and I was just like, what can I do? How can I help?
Yeah.
Because if somebody is not going to stay with us for very long, I still I want to try.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I see it, I got to do something. And so, I reached out to this person, and I tried to offer them a little bit of light. And it's difficult, because you've mentioned it several times in your story, when the allergy is going off,
Yep.
It's just impossible to put it down.
Yeah.
And it's so I haven't touched anything in over 5 years, but when I think about now, I'm just like, oh, but it's just a few simple things. Just take my hand, just come with me.
Yep.
It's gonna be fine.
Yep.
Everything's fine. Just come with me. It'll be okay. But then I think back to the hopelessness,
Yeah.
the broken, the suicidal, it was just so hard. And I think it's we would so much rather be miserable, because there's comfort in knowing where you're at.
Yep.
It not knowing is so much more scary than being miserable where you're comfortable.
Yep.
Right? It's just, it's hard. It is so hard to watch people struggle when you just want so much good for them.
Yep.
But that's a part of the acceptance of the recovery journey, right? We can't fix anybody. We can't save anybody.
No.
They have to work with God. They have to find their higher power, and they
Yep.
have to be willing to try. And it's just, I'm so grateful for where I am today, and having the ability to be able to do things like this and share the message of myself and other people that I care about too.
Yeah.
This podcast has been downloaded in 21 different countries.
So amazing.
Which is so cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't even know there was English speaking people there. I don't know, maybe they translated it, right? It's so cool to be able to do that. But that's one part of recovery that I don't think I'm ever gonna be okay with, is how often we fucking lose people.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I've lost count on to how many friends I've lost to this disease, and I probably will continue to lose to this disease. And it's surprising that I'm not crying. It's not that I don't have empathy. I cried so much last week. I think I got all of my tears out because, grief is not linear, right? And for me, it hits hard sometimes, and it's especially around those anniversary dates and those birthdays, and but yeah, it's that continuously having acceptance that we have no control. We are powerless over people, places, things, addiction, especially. But to help ourselves is to be able to help another. But then when we can't help those others, that's where we feel that pain, and that almost that grief, because we know where it can take you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
Dark places.
Yeah, it is.
Dark places.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just really... Sometimes, it was funny. I was talking to my boss the other day. We have like random conversations. He's seen, I think, an episode or two. I sent him the My Employers chapter of the book. I'm like, in case you're interested, here you go. You've probably come across this a few times. And, we crack jokes sometimes about it because nobody that I work with they don't see that in me. Yeah. Right? Because I've been sober as long, like I was 6 months sober and then I started working there. But it's just really interesting that I won't go into details because I don't want to like pull that into it, but like sometimes there's like some really like ridiculous jokes and stuff that go on. But in talking to him, we sat down and I went a little deeper than I ever have with him before. Yep. Which was good, but also at the same time a little bit terrifying because of this podcast, because of how often I speak in centers and speak in different rooms. Yep. It is a part of who I am. I respect anybody who wants to stay anonymous, and I respect anybody that wants to do it privately. Yep. I suffered in silence for a year. I want to scream it from the mountaintops, and that's just who I am, and I'm cool with that. But there were limits on what I would share because of my story is all court mandated, right? Right. And into some legalities and things. And so one of the departments that I worked in like had to sign paperwork and stuff. Like there was like a whole thing. But then I moved over to here. It was long after. Anyway, so he's like, I'm kind of like talking about it like I knew he knew all the dirty details. Yeah. And he was like, really? I think it was because I was talking about like where I wanted to travel. And like, depends if I can go there or not, right? And so it was just really interesting because we had this like deep conversation. And he was just like, oh, like, I didn't know it was that bad. Like I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was that bad. And so the reason I'm bringing up this conversation is this is a really beautiful experience that I had that I've never had before in recovery. And I just wish it on everybody because it was a really beautiful feeling. Yeah. Now I'm getting emotional again. I looked at him and he was just like, I didn't know it was that bad. Like it's hard to look at you and see what you're saying, that you did all of these things. And I said, what's really cool is I've done enough work and there's been enough time and I'm constantly doing it. It doesn't even feel like it's ever who I was. Yeah. Like it feels like I was trapped in a nightmare for years that I finally woke up from. Yeah. It doesn't actually feel like reality anymore. Yep. Sometimes I still have nightmares about it. Sometimes I still have dreams about it. Yes, same here. I have the weirdest dreams. Like when I dream about addiction, it's only ever one of two things. And the first one I haven't dreamt in a couple of years, but it was always, I relapsed. Yep. I did it. And the second I did it, I'm like, oh my God, I've screwed up everything. What am I going to do? Yep. Same here. And then I wake up and I'm like, that was terrible. Now I dream where I have relapsed, but I'm not telling anybody in the recovery community that I have. Okay. And now it's like I'm actively using, but I'm hiding it from everyone. Right. But I never actually have in my dreams like the experience of being high or using. I just wake up feeling total anxiety. And I'm like, why would I dream that? Right. And I have these weird dreams. But it was just really cool to finally come to that realization where I'm like, I don't even remember me as that person anymore. It just feels like a bad dream I woke up from. And that was a really beautiful experience. Yeah. That is such a beautiful experience. I talked to a longtime friend of mine that I hadn't talked to in some time. And she didn't know, like, we kind of stopped talking when my ex and I separated. And I went through all my healing because of a certain different situation that she was in. However, she's like, Krystal, you're still the same person. You're just without that part because it's the same person in there. Like I'm still that same personality that I've always had. I'm still me, but I have found a way to break free from that disease that I was suffering with. Right. And I think it's incredible to be able to be seen by others and also just know that like you're still in there. But even though it was like a freaking nightmare back then, because for me too, it feels like I was living, it was like a nightmare, but
I do have those dreams too. You know, I have those dreams where I'm either doing it and I'm disappointing my family. Those are the kind of dreams. At first, it was my sponsor. I was afraid to tell her in my dream.
Totally.
And then it was my family.
Yep.
Now it's my family. And it's usually around stressful times that I have those dreams come back. And man, they can feel so real.
Totally.
They feel so real.
Yep.
And it's almost scary. It's a good reminder of where I don't want to be.
Yep.
But with that being said, with the disease of addiction, like all it takes is one mind switch and you could be right back out there. So we need to be continuous on our recovery programming and like working our program. That like brings me to like emotional sobriety and stuff for myself anyways, is, you know, if I didn't have a sponsor, if I didn't have the pillars that I have, I would be probably right back out there. Given everything that I've gone through since Vance passed away, I've had many blessings, but learning how to deal with a loss like that.
Yep.
My goodness, thank goodness that I have the people that I have in my life today, because, you know, but that really, again, it brought me to teaching me a little bit more about healing and like going within and letting go of everything that I thought I knew, and all those things that I held on to for so many years, the resentments. And it was my sister that said it to me last year. She's like, you know, Krystal, I think that if you could just have some acceptance around being a single mom, you would probably feel a lot better. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like the acceptance prayer. And I was like, if I find something or someone unacceptable, it's something within me. I was like, this is mind-blowing how I didn't think of this for so long, you know? But that's all I needed to have was acceptance. Like, this is the way that my life is. And it's like this for a reason. And God's got, even though I can't see it, God has a purpose for me to live my life like this. And now this is where it brings me to helping other moms. Right? Helping other moms break free of all those feelings of the resentment or the shame or guilt that comes along with experiencing addiction while being a parent, because it doesn't stop. And for me, I had to work a long time to be able to get to where I'm at today within myself and my healing.
Right.
Yeah.
So what kind of tools for our listeners that would like to be able to learn more about that? What kind of tools do you have? I know that you're building kind of your own online presence.
Yeah.
What are you doing? How can you help?
Yes.
Where should people go look for your stuff?
Thank you. Thanks for letting me share this on your platform.
No problem.
Well, you know, in my recovery journey, I learned about energy healing. So Reiki is one thing that my
mom does Reiki.
I love Reiki. Yeah. Once I first felt it, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
I had such an amazing experience with it. I'm like, okay, now I need to learn this. And right away, I was taught Reiki level 1, Reiki level 2. And then so I am a registered social service worker, and I went back to school after Vance passed, and I went for a wellness counseling diploma.
Okay.
And in that, it taught me that wellness counseling diploma. It was emotional, spiritual, physical, and mental wellness.
Love that.
Yeah, it was amazing. So amazing. I was like, this is the meat and potatoes for me. Right. I was actually going to take another, like the program was a PCD, which was professional counseling diploma. But because I had the SSW, it was really similar to that program. But the wellness is where it was at for me. So that was my meat and potatoes. But the emotional was intense. We did this thing called a therapeutic release session where you think about a time that it was, you were never able to use your voice. You were never able to share. For me, it was my dad and how he showed up and how that affected me. And I was able to do like a mock session, or I guess it would be like somebody sat across from me and we reenacted it is what we did.
Oh, okay. Like role-playing kind of deal.
Role-playing, yeah.
Okay.
And I was able to say what I wanted to say, and then I got an apology, which I have not received, right? But it
Right.
was so powerful. And
Okay.
just to be able to release all of
All
that.
the stuff that's been stuck deep inside you
Yeah.
for so many years.
Yeah. So part of that was like, it was really healing, right? Physical wellness for me is somatic. So somatic therapy somatic means body in Greek, and it's like looking within. So it's like the body is outside of, so it's the physical sensations, the feelings. And what I've learned from doing this schooling and this work is that our energy and emotions get stored into our bodies and into our centers.
Makes sense.
And we hold on to it, and it shows up in pain. So it comes out as some people suffer with like chronic pain, and a lot of it has to do with unhealed trauma.
Could that be kind of like what PTSD is like as well?
Well,
Because like having trauma things where like something happens and then physically your body's reacting to it.
Well, post-traumatic stress disorder is like it's because of something that's happened, right?
Yeah.
It's hard for me to explain because I want to say that like they label things, PTSD is a real thing. And yeah, it shows up. It's like those flashbacks. It's those feelings.
But could it be because we're physically storing it in our body? That was the connection I was trying to make. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
KK.
Yes. So yeah, we were physically feeling it in our body. So for example, when I saw my ex that one day, and I hadn't seen him and I shook for 2 hours straight.
Right.
That was that PTSD coming back, right? Those physical feelings, and I froze. It's that freeze,
flight, fight, or
fight.
freeze.
Yeah.
Flight,
flight, or freeze.
Fight, flight, or freeze. Say that 10 times fast.
Right.
That was way too hard. It must be a Sunday.
That's okay. It's allowed.
My brain's on weekend mode. That was hard. Proceed.
It's okay. It was it's just been really powerful, this healing journey. And so, I incorporate that into my business. So right now I'm focusing on building a coaching business, and I would like to incorporate all of those modalities that I've been taught, as well as rewiring the brain. For my focus is going to be working with moms who are seeking sobriety or thinking that they may have a problem with alcohol. And, planting those seeds, giving them a program where they can have first off, it's going to be like a couple of weeks, and we're going to have challenges to be able to help them either lessen their drinking or stop their drinking. And then we move on to having like a weekly check-in sessions, one-on-one group coaching sessions, but also giving them little tools and tricks and tips on how to maintain their sobriety throughout those weeks going forward.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm really excited to build it. So it's in the midst, like the building stages right now. But otherwise, I am a counselor, registered, like I said, in Ontario. I'm registered in BC as a therapeutic counselor, whatever it's called, RTC, registered therapeutic counselor candidate.
That was a mouthful too.
It is a mouthful. It's my weekend
You rolled right through that one though. You said that once or twice.
It's a lot. But yeah, so, I just feel like where my life experiences have taken me is where I want to be able to give back. And when I first started my recovery journey, I will be 100% honest that there was not a lot of support for moms. And I did not feel comfortable talking to somebody who didn't know that what parenting was like.
Right.
What it was like to be a mom, because I felt that shame. I felt that judgment. I felt the stigma. They didn't have a program for moms in Ontario where I was living at the time. And that's why I started that moms group, Mamas Unite. And I had some good attendance coming in, and I taught mindfulness. I taught boundaries. I taught, we had a Reiki healer come in, and just like weekly check-in groups where we would connect and talk about it and hold space and not have a space where it was any judgment. Because as a parent, like, you're already judging yourself so much. Yeah. It's the hardest job that I don't even want to call it a job, but it's the most challenging.
Right.
experience I have ever had on top of my sobriety, the two of them together, but it's constant. Like parenting does not stop,
Right.
And none of those now dealing with somebody else's emotions, somebody else's feelings. So I am constantly taking training into helping me or reading books or learning more on how to help be a better parent, be a better mom, but also understand that the kids are just their kid themselves too, and giving them their autonomy and their freedom, and they have to learn their lessons as well, right? So not trying to be that authoritative all the time,
Right.
and having those boundaries. So
you said Mamas Unite in Ontario. Like, do you have something like that now here in Alberta?
I do have a Facebook group called Mamas Unite.
Okay.
I haven't been, to be honest, using that that space to connect. I found it really hard to actually connect out here without having a group in person. And I think that would be something along the lines that I would like to do in future. In the future, I see having a space for like healing for moms, a space for women, to be able to come and just connect. And also I'd love to do like women healing circles. And because I am now a Reiki master, I also practice some Indigenous I've been taught some Indigenous practices, I should say, smudging and just bringing people in. I would bring people in who drum and pray. And, I've done some Indigenous ceremony as well, where I've gone to sweat lodges, which is so powerful.
I have not done yet. And I hear it's so good. I don't know how to get invited.
Oh, I know a person.
Hook me up.
Okay.
I would love to
we
go
can
to
go
one.
together.
Everyone talks about just like how beautiful of experience it is.
It's intense.
I hear it's quite difficult, but in a great way.
Yeah. It is.
I would love to experience that.
Yes, I would love to bring you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank
I know
you.
someone.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So your business name is?
So it's Krystal Harrington Coaching.
Okay.
You can find me on Instagram, Krystal Harrington Coaching. My business name is Rise Above Holistic Care.
Yeah.
But right now my Instagram handle is Krystal Harrington Coaching.
Okay.
Because right now I'm really focusing on the coaching. Building that online coaching program. And then you can also find my other handle is Mama Don't Whine No More. So that's my other Instagram handle.
I think what we'll probably do is when your video is released, maybe in the descriptions on YouTube and online, we'll post your stuff there.
Okay,
so
great.
People can click and go right there and make it nice and easy.
Yeah. And I do offer still, like I am still offering the one-on-one counseling sessions. And I'd like to incorporate that as well. But I've really got to just, as my mind, I also have been diagnosed ADHD. So I want to do all the things, but I need to focus on the one thing right now.
Totally.
And
I'm a bad multitasker as well.
Yeah.
I just need to do one thing at a time.
That's it. That's one thing at a time. So right now I'm going to focus on this coaching and building this program and getting that off the ground running. And then from there on, I still have all my things and I can use it all intertwined.
Right.
But, just one thing at a time.
Well, we will promote the hell out of you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you.
One of the things that I was actually chatting with Chase about over the last couple weeks, I've been thinking about maybe steering season 4 a little bit of a different way.
Yep.
But for all the episodes that we've done, I've tried to bring on people that I have seen with a great message. And I'm starting to realize that I am one person in one city and I'm running out of my pool of people to find that I think are really great people.
Yep.
So if you know anyone that you think that would be
absolutely
great to have on, if you could send them my way.
Okay.
I'd really appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely.
Amazing. We have a few minutes left. So I was thinking maybe how we could wrap up is either you could tell us a little bit about challenges, things that you overcame being a single parent in recovery, or leaving us with some kind of message about something that you wish that you knew sooner.
Yeah.
Give us some words of wisdom to wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I think my parenting challenges are continuous, and they're going to be continuous as long as I'm parenting these 2 children of mine. They're just going to continue to happen and arise, and seek out that support when needed. And, when things get really tough, is like asking for help. And so I think that a word of wisdom that I know now that I didn't know before is like, don't be afraid to ask for help. So many times I was afraid to ask for help. So many times I was afraid to tell my sponsor what was happening in my home with my kids, how I raised my voice, how I overreacted, how I swore or something around them, and like
how you were human,
how I was human, but I didn't want people to know. And I was ashamed of that for a long time, you know, and I still have to work through that. So that's something that, you know, it's like, that's where we find the humility in ourselves, is being open about it. And now today I have a lot less self-judgment for myself, with being able to be open and honest and be raw, because guess what? My sponsor and my friends who are parents are going through the same stuff in different ways, and they're, you know, showing up the same ways too. And so for me, it was just like, you're not alone. You're really not alone. You have a lot of people in your corner that will want to offer that support and that love and hold the space for you, you know, of being able to be seen, but be ready to be told the truth, the cold hard truth. And, you know, sometimes that doesn't feel good either, you know, and being shown your defects can be hard, but don't run away from it, because it's honestly, it's something that you need to work through to be able to be your best self. Yeah.
I love how you just said that, because that was one of the biggest, most terrifying parts of my journey through the steps.
Yeah.
Because of all of the people pleasing, the validation, I'll do anything, just like me, just love me, just accept me. And having such a low self-worth to begin with.
Yeah.
The idea of somebody handing me a list of all the things wrong with me
Yep.
did not sound like something I wanted to be a part of at all.
At all.
At all.
I agree.
I'm like, I already hate myself. Now you're going to tell me all the other reasons why I suck? Like, that's not something that I wanted to do. But for anyone who's, you know, wanting to do it, has tried to do it, had failed to do 4 or 5, whatever it is, that it really wasn't the case.
Oh, yeah.
Right? What happened was I was handed a map to freedom.
Yes. Yes. Ooh, goosebumps. Yes.
I was finally able to see that I was the cause of most of my failure.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always necessarily stuff that was in my control, but how I reacted to things and how I, you know, and there was a lot of things where the more you didn't like me, the more I pushed to make you like me. Why was I constantly trying to put people in my circle that didn't belong there?
Right.
Right. It was just all these, I was so focused on, I just don't want to be told why I suck.
Right.
Right. And it kept me sick for so long. But that's what I really like to call it. It's just my map to freedom.
Yeah.
Right? How I can correct all of these things that caused my failure.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful experience to find out that you are worthy of love, that there's only certain people that should be in your corner, that those people are always going to offer you support, but they can't if you don't ask for it.
Exactly.
Right? Just all this, the beautiful things that comes with recovery and the 12-step groups and our community.
Yeah.
Like, what a great, beautiful thing to be a part of.
Yeah. I often say, like, I said it not too long ago, actually at Christmas time when I went home to visit my family. I said it to my cousin because she's also on the sober journey. And I said to her, I wish I had done this before. Like, why didn't I do it? And she's like, Krystal, it wasn't a thing back then. Like, it was widely celebrated to party, to like escape and to drink, right? And that it was also widely celebrated. And now more people are choosing the path to sobriety.
Yep.
And I love that there's more of there's an awakening happening right now to know that, like, we've been manipulated by media, by movies, by, you know, to believe that, hey, you need a drink after sex. You need a drink after
everything.
At dinner time, you need a drink to sit down and, you know, have your children around the table and pour the glass of wine. Like, you know, it's all it's all portrayed that this is how, you know, this is how life is. But, you know, when you really live a life free from that, you can actually see that.
And the amount of people out there too that don't suffer from our disease, that are making the choice to turn away from that stuff too.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I think it was, oh my God, like it was probably 2 years ago, just like a few months into Chase and I dating, we went to a bar to go see a band.
Yep.
And they had this really cool sign on their bar that simply said, you don't need to get wasted to have a great time. Here's a list of all of our non-alcoholic drinks.
Nice.
And they had created 10
Oh, that's
10
amazing.
different mocktails
Yep.
and different delicious, tasty things that have nothing to do with having booze in them. And it's like, that's not something that you would see 15, 20 years ago
Right.
anywhere. It was, here's all the reasons and here's all the specials why you should drink more.
Yeah, right?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think that there is kind of an awakening and that we are starting to, as a society, really understand how lied to we have been.
Yep.
I mean, with everything, not even just with alcohol, but like what was that food pyramid we were taught in the 90s?
Yeah.
That's like all bullshit and like terrible for you. And most of the
There's-
food that you buy is toxic and somehow that's all still legal. Not stuff I want to get into, but
That's a whole different topic.
whole
we could
different
talk about
topic,
another
but
day.
trying to get people to wake up and understand the negative effects of bad food, the
Yeah.
negative effects of bad media, the negative effects of poison and drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Like, it's really cool that we're starting to see that shift.
Yep. I
And
know. What a time to be alive, hey?
What a time to be alive.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm pretty good. That was a really great chat.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that.
Okay.
That was awesome. Thank
One
you
last
so much.
piece of advice for anybody who's struggling. What do you got?
Okay. You put me on the spot.
I do.
Put me on the spot. One last piece of advice. I'm here and I'm free today because I chose to reach out to a friend to step out of my comfort zone. So it's literally like this is life or death these days. And you are worthy of a life worth living free from drugs and alcohol. That is my piece of advice. You are fucking worthy.
I love that.
Thank you.
I had said to this girl that I've been speaking with that was struggling, and it's just such an easy sentence that I've been using for the last couple of weeks, and I love it. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Yes.
So do
Absolutely.
something different because you're fucking worth it.
Yes. Do something different.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
This has been a really, really nice conversation. You taught me a lot, so thank you so much for
Aw,
doing this.
Thank you for
I'd love
having
to
me.
have you on again sometime.
I would love to.
What are we going to talk about next time?
I don't know.
I don't know yet.
I don't know yet.
I don't know yet.
Woo!
We'll see you next time. Peace.